Hello all. Let us talk about ancient Greek art circa 1000 to 480 BC. The objectives in learning this chapter will be as follows. Acquaint about the significance of Greek art and architecture in the said period. Understand in detail about the different periods in Greek history and circumstances that led to the production of art. Appreciate the art and architecture of the said period. The period under survey is covered under the following. Geometric style, circa 1000 to 700 BC. The Orientalizing period, circa 700 to 600 BC. The Archaic period, circa 600 to 480 BC. The Greek artwork broke new boundaries in composition and realistic rendering. They were fearless when it came to depicting the nude. It also set the stage for many architectural innovations. Vase painting using either the red figure or the black figure technique was also extremely popular during the early Greek time period. The earliest Greek style called geometric, circa 1000 to 700 BC, is known only from pottery and the small scale sculpture. Curved forms and perfect symmetry epitomized the geometric style. The lively rectilinear minder patterns circling the body. In these two images exemplify geometric pottery design. Each pattern is framed by circular horizontal borders that emphasize the shape of the pot, and two rows of stylized animals seem to proceed slowly around the neck. Because the amphora was a grave marker, its main scene is prothesis, lying in state of the dead. The deceased lies on the frontal bier, held up and flanked by rows of figures who create a sense of motion through ritual gestures of mourning. Their torsos are composed of flat black triangles, and their heads are rounded. Typical of geometric vase painting are the flat two-dimensional renderings and the lively stylized forms painted in a dark glaze, actually a slip, which is refined clay, over a light surface. Greek artists of the geometric period also produced figurines of wood, ivory, clay, and cast bronze. These small statues of humans and animals are similar in appearance to those painted on pots. A tiny bronze of this type depicts a man and centaur, a mythical creature part man and part horse. The sculptor here has distilled the body parts of figures to elemental geometric shapes, arranging them in a composition of solid forms and open or negative spaces that makes the piece pleasing from multiple viewpoints. Most such sculptures have been found in centuries, suggesting that they may have served as votive offerings to gods. Let us talk about the Orientalizing period, circa 700 to 600 BC. Influences from the Near East and Egypt begin to take place in Greek art in a recognizable way. In the 8th century BC, the painters moved away from the linear decorations of geometric age and created open compositions around large motifs, including animals, plants, and human figures. The artist drew on work in a variety of media including sculpture, metalwork, and textiles, to invent an entirely new approach to painting. Vessels. Corinth, the port city, is the birthplace of this style. In the Corinthian Alp or wide-mouthed pitcher dating to about 600 to 625 BC, slouted creatures, lions, panthers, goats, deer, bulls, boars, and swans stride in horizontal bends against a light background with stylized flower forms, called rosettes, filling the spaces around them. The Corinthians developed the technique of black figure pottery and fired 3 different times to produce the unique red and black colors on each vase. The black color came from a slip painted on the vessel, after which incised lines were drawn onto outline and detail the figure. Additionally, red and white pigments could be added for more color or to differentiate details. Unpainted portions of the vase would remain the original red, orange color of the pot. The full effect of this style of painting would not have been seen until after the vase emerged from its firing in the kiln. As the style spread, the subject matter changed from strictly Near Eastern animals to scenes from Greek mythology and everyday life. Let us look at some more artifacts. Let us also move to the Archaic period, circa 600 to 480 BC. The Archaic period was a time of great new achievement in Greece. This was the time of the rise of polis, city-states, the founding of colonies. Greek settlements stretched all the way from the coast of Asia Minor and the Aegean islands to mainland Greece, Sicily, North Africa, and even Spain. In literature, Sappho wrote her inspired lyric poetry on the island of Lesbos, while on another island, the legendary storyteller Aesop crafted his animal fables. This period saw the annexions by the Persian Empire as well as the first inklings of classical philosophy. Theatre in the form of tragedies performed during Dionysia, and written poetry which appeared with the reintroduction of the written language, lost during the Greek Dark Ages. Artists and architects shared in the growing prosperity as the city councils and wealthy individuals sponsored the creation of extraordinary sculpture and fine ceramics and commissioned elaborate civic and religious buildings in cities and sanctuaries. The termini of the Archaic period are defined as the structural revolution, meaning a sudden upsurge of population and material goods that occurred circa 750 BC, and the intellectual revolution of classical Greece. It is interesting to remember that the term archaic is a misnomer, as the Archaic period is considered to be one of the most fruitful periods of Greek history. The prominent artistic centers of mainland Greece, notably Sparta, Corinth, and Athens, also exhibited significant regional variations. Sparta and its neighbors in Laconia produced remarkable ivory carvings and distinctive bronzes. Corinthian artisans invented a style of slouted forms that focused on tapestry-like patterns of small animals and plants motifs. By contrast, the vase painters of Athens were more inclined to illustrate mythological scenes. During the Archaic period, Greek art became less rigidly stylized and more naturalistic. Paintings on vases evolved from geometric designs to representations of human figures, often illustrating epic tales. In sculpture, faces were animated with characteristic archaic smile, and bodies were rendered with a growing attention of human proportion and anatomy. The development of the Doric and Ionic orders of architecture in the Archaic period also reflected a growing concern with harmonious architectural proportions. Let us first look at archaic painting style. In this period, Athens became a large center of pottery, and its painters adopted the Corinthian black figure techniques. At first, Athenians vase painters retained the horizontal banded compositions that were characteristic of geometric period. Over the time, however, they decreased the number of bands and increased the size of figures until a single narrative scene dominates each side of the vessel. Pots were produced in pieces. The main bowl section was produced with clay on a wheel. Then a neck and base, called a foot, would be formed of clay and attached. The potter would fill in the joints with a slip, a more liquid form of clay, to seal them. Finally, handles could be attached to the pot. Then the pot would be fired in a kiln, which made the clay hard and durable. In terms of the subject matter, patterning still functions as a border device, and as in orientalizing, the central image is a narrative scene. In this figure, Adam Lowry says that Ajax and Achilles are identified by inscriptions. They wear elaborately patterned cloaks, armed, and thigh armor enlivened with elegant spiral designs, and Greaves' shin protectors. The stylized frontal eye persists from Mesopotamian, Egyptian and Asian art, but here the postures are rendered more three-dimensionally. Exekius, the maker of this vessel, was perhaps the most famous of all Athenian black figure painters. He signed many of his vessels as both potter and painter. He took his subjects from Greek mythology, which he and his patrons probably considered to be history. To archaic sculpture now. During this period, two types of freestanding large-scale sculptures predominate: the male Kyros, or standing nude youth, and the female Ka, or standing draped maiden. These sculptures reveal Egyptian influence in both its pose and proportions. Erected in sanctuaries and cemeteries outside the city wall, These large stone statues served as dedications to gods or as grave markers. Athenian aristocrats frequently erected expensive funerary monuments in the city and its environs, especially for members of their family who had died young. Such monuments also took the form of stelae, often decorated in relief. The Kuros maintains the standard Egyptian frontal pose. His left leg extends forward with no bend at the knee, hips or waist, and his arms here at his sides. The fists are clenched and elbows are turned back. Nevertheless, the sculptor has made changes to emphasize human anatomy. The Kuros is a cut away from the original block of marble, leaving open spaces between the arms and body and between the legs. This openness and muscularity increase the tension and liveliness of the Kuros. The Greek convention of nudity for male statues signals an interest in human form, although statues of females were clothed for reasons of propriety. By the beginning of the 5th century BC, they adopted what is called the severe style. The archaic smile disappears and statues are differentiated as either humans or gods. This paved the way for the development of Greek classical sculpture, which would come to look naturalistic and display greater artistic skill and variation. Look at some more examples here. Let us talk about archaic Greek architecture now. The Greeks, like all ancient peoples, thought of temples as houses for the gods. Greek religious worship did not take place inside the temples. Temples were designed rather to house the cult image of a god and the votive offerings of the god. In Greece, the temple plan was derived from a megaron found in Mycenaean palaces, but the Greeks embellished it with an exterior colonnade. The first Greek temples were made of wood, but the archaic period builders began to use stone. Still, the stone temples mimicked their wooden predecessors. This reduced the inert outer wall of its structural parts, the supports and the weight they bear. This device is analogous to contrapposto. It animates the forces at work in the building and enables the viewer to understand them. These buildings were often embellished with sculptural figures of stone or terracotta, painting now mostly lost, and elaborate moldings. True narrative scenes in relief sculpture appeared in the latter part of the 6th century BC, as artists became increasingly interested in showing figures, especially the human figure in motion. Centuries were a focus of the artistic achievement at this time and served as major repository of works of art. The two main orders of Greek architecture, the Doric order of mainland Greece and the western colonies, and the Ionic order of the Greek cities on the coast of Asia Minor and the Ionian Islands, were well established by the beginning of the 6th century BC. The centuries at Delphi. The site of Delphi is dominated by a central temple of Apollo, a 4th century BC replacement of archaic 6th century temple. Inside the temple of Apollo was the seat of Pythia, in a small restricted room in the back of Naos, known as an Editon. There was also a large theatre built into the hillside, located just above the temple of Apollo. The theatre was first built in the 4th century BC and renovated multiple times in the following centuries. It could seat 5,000 spectators and offered a view of entire century site and the valley. Athenian treasury. The road leading up to the century site of Apollo was lined with votive statues and treasuries. The treasuries were built by different police to honor the oracle, thank her for advice and commemorate military victories. Siphonian treasury. The Siphonian treasury was built for the police of Siphonos, a city-state that occupied a Cycladic island. The Siphonians had large gold and silver mines, which they profited from enormously, and they used the profits to erect their treasury at Delphi in honor the god Apollo. The treasury housed their gold and silver gifts to the gods. The Siphian treasury was the first structure built entirely from marble when it was erected in 530 BC and was elaborately decorated. The two columns in Antis were not typical columns but caryatids, supportive columns that took the shape of a woman. A continuous Ionic frieze that wrapped around the top of the treasury beneath the pediment depicted scenes from Greek mythology, including a gigantomachy on the north side, the judgment of Paris on the west side, and gods watching the sack of Troy by the Greeks on the south and east side. The east pediment recounts the story of Heracles stealing Apollo's tripod, which visually connects the pediment and the treasury to the oracle site at the temple of Apollo. Let us look at Greek temples now. The architectural order governed not only the column but also the relationship among all the components of architecture. As a result, every piece of Greek building is integral to its overall structure. A fragment of molding often can be used to reconstruct an entire building. Although the ancient Greeks erected buildings of many types, the Greek temple best exemplifies the aims and methods of Greek architecture. The temple typically incorporated an oblong plan and one or more rows of columns surrounding all four sides. The vertical structure of the temple conformed to an order, a fixed arrangement of forms unified by principles of symmetry and harmony. There was usually pronaos front porch and an opisthodomos black porch The upper elements of a temple were usually made of mud brick and timber, and the platform of the building was of a cut masonry. Columns were carved of local stone, usually limestone or tufa. In much earlier temples, columns would have been made of wood. Marble was used in many temples such as the Parthenon in Athens, which is decorated with pentelic, and the marble from the Cycladic island of Paros. The interior of the Greek temple characteristically consists of a cella, the inner shrine in which stood the cult statue, and sometimes one or two antechambers in which were stored the treasury with votive offerings. Let us take the example of the temple of Aphaia, spectacularly sited on the top of a hill overlooking the sea. The temple uses 6 columns on the facade with 12 on the sides, and the cella, whose roof was supported by superimposed colonnades, could be entered from porches on both sides. The slight swelling of columns antithesis seen at Poseidonia is evident here as well, and the outside triglyphs are pushed to the ends of frieze out of alignment with the column underneath them to avoid the awkwardness of a half metope rectangular panel with a relief or painting at the corner. Like most Greek examples, this building was neither isolated nor situated in open space, but set in relation to an outside altar where religious ceremonies were focused. Thank you.